This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. Hump Day! And that means sports talk here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network on another Wednesday edition of SportsMinute, bringing you all of the latest and greatest sports news and stories from around the wide world of sports, alongside Big B, Brandon Herrera, James Gonzalez, and our executive producer and director, Chris P. Bacon, Chris Mabry. Yours truly, Cal McClurg, coming out of the bullpen for Adam Barber on this Wednesday night, January 17th, 2024. Mr. Herrera, good to see you, my friend. How we doing tonight?
Now we're doing good. We have a lot to talk about. First, I want to send, I'm not a big basketball guy, but it is touching. The Warriors had to cancel their game today for a personal matter, family matter. Their coach, I'm not going to pronounce his name because I am going to butcher the assistant coach, I should say, was found dead in his room, I guess, with a heart attack at the age of 46. So I want to just send out the prayers to the family, the fans, the organization,
Absolutely. Again, very troubling day to hear that news after reports that came out on Tuesday into today. And obviously all the best to Coach and his family. With that in mind, Mr. James Gonzalez, the proud host of Entertainment Network or on Entertainment Hour here on C2C. Mr. Gonzalez, how are we doing tonight, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, when I read that news about the Warriors coach, I was really shocked. I mean, it's been a tough year so far for him. Injuries and then suspensions, just a lot of stress. I'm wanting to see more about it, and I just can't wait to get into some of these topics because some of them I've really watched, and one of them was definitely a surprise.
And, of course, our executive producer and director, folks, the man himself, Chris P. Bacon, Chris Mabry. Hopefully, Chris has no sharp objects around him because of the events of the weekend down in Arlington. But, Mr. Bacon, good to see you, my man. How are we doing tonight?
Doing good. No sharp objects, but everything's good. Sad to hear about the coach and, condolences with his family and friends and teammates. So that's not a good thing.
Yeah, again, very tough day for the NBA. The Warriors, again, having to cancel the game earlier on Wednesday. The reports that had come out on Tuesday. And again, wishing all the best to the Warriors and the coaching staff and the team going forward. With that in mind, though, guys, the lead story of the day, probably some bombshell news in the NFL as we await the upcoming divisional round postseason in the AFC and NFC. But, of course, the Dallas Cowboys elect to maintain head coach Mike McCarthy after a very pitiful and dreadful playoff defeat at the hands of the 7-seeded Packers on Sunday in the Big D of Arlington, Texas. Chris, we'll go to you first, my man, our resident Cowboys fan. But certainly, I think, though, Chris, it's probably not surprising because of Jerry Jones and his loyalty to head coaches, but also maybe a little bit borderline infuriating with how the coaching carousel is right now with Bill Belichick's name being thrown out there. Jim Harbaugh out there interviewing for 4 hours with the LA Chargers per reports on Tuesday. So many big names are out there. Yet, though, Jerry Jones, still, though, with faith and trust in the process, goes back to Mike McCarthy earlier on Wednesday, making that official announcement. Chris, your reaction, I guess, to that news, though, about, again, with so many coaches being out there, but yet Jerry Jones, though, sticking to his guns and staying with Coach McCarthy for next season.
He is. any of his coaches or players go. That's what he said, and I think his press statement. And I know a lot of people are not surprised that McCarthy's, still going to be there. I think they're frustrated with the results. Yeah, he's taken us to the playoffs. Yeah, it's been at least to the divisional round, but he has to go to at least the championship, or at least win that, or at least get us there. But also, he has 1 year left on his current contract, and maybe he's just trying to ride it out, see how this season goes. If he needs an extension or wants to give him an extension, I don't know. But it seems like Dan Quinn may be out, but we've heard that before too, and he hasn't left. So,
James, I know every year, though, that there's those memes that circulate the web that is the life cycle of Chris and the Dallas fan base of like, great start to the season. Yeah, we dem boys. Are we still dem boys? We dem boys. You get, though, to like the very end of the circle of the cycle, and now you're at the point, though, where after all the regular season success, now the playoff elephant in the room comes back. And I think anybody out there who may have tuned into the game, was tracking the score line, was probably in a way not surprised that we have seen this Dallas organization crumple under the playoff pressure time in and time out ever since since their last Super Bowl run back in like the mid to late 90s, I would probably say. I mean, at this rate, like James, it's almost like you've done practically everything, as we hear from Basarge himself. Cowboys put a new meaning to the circle of life. I would definitely agree with that. There's definitely another circle. It's like a Venn diagram now, I think, Sarge, when it boils down to it. But James, again, though, man, I think that we know that Jerry Jones might be the most loyal owner to head coaches. We've seen that probably with Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson at one point, Jason Garrett, all those 8-8, 7-9, one or two loss more than the win total seasons. But James, are you at all surprised, though, to hear that Jerry Jones is keeping Mike McCarthy in the fold for 2024 and beyond?
Okay, so a smart person would have raged like I did earlier when I heard that tonight, because for the last two postseasons, the Cowboys went out terribly, right? Last year, they had the horrible second play where Elliott is hiking the ball to Dak and they're by themselves. Just stupid. I don't care if you work on it in practice. Don't do it from 80 yards away from the end zone.
And whatever the fact we have no timeouts left, too.
And then before that, Prescott, do it in himself. That's more on Prescott. But then this year, to crumble, like you mentioned, to have your two best players just argue all the time in the huddle and on the sideline. How can you do that on the most important game of the season? That was just unbelievable to see that. And then knowing that, okay, this is the time that you make a move. Belichick is out there. Maybe you move Dan Quinn down to the head coaching rank. But Jerry, he's loyal, like you mentioned. Other from getting rid of Tom Landry right away. Remember, that was his first move when he got there. And then they hired his friend Jimmy Johnson, and they went on to win. Then the Eagles hit, each other, and Jerry wanted Jimmy to leave. He stuck with Switzer, which was a Dollar Tree, Jimmy Johnson. Then there was Chan Gailey, but he got rid of him quick, did Jerry, and then Dave Campbell got rid of him pretty fast. And then Bill
Parcells left.
Bill Parcells came in.
Jason Garrett.
Before that, Wade Phillips got rid of him pretty quick. But then he stuck with Jason Garrett for so damn long. Just,
ironically, Garrett was there when backing up Aikman.
That's right, yeah. So I just thought to myself, well, damn, I'm not really surprised. With the 1 year left on his contract, like Chris mentioned, Jerry's just going to try to ride it out And then maybe there's just feelings there because in Jerry's world, McCarthy won his only Super Bowl as a Green Bay Packer head coach. So maybe he still pictures that in his head, thinking like, okay, they're gonna, we're gonna win with him. But I think Jerry Jones, he's obviously lost some of his touch. I don't know how much he has into his drafting because it seems like they've done well with their drafting lately. But maybe that's more Stephen Jones.
Well, maybe a little bit of
Son.
Stephen, but it's our draft scout, Will McClay, who he signed another deal.
Well, maybe they should ask him to do all the coaching decisions, and he wouldn't be stuck in this spot.
He has been a head coach before. It's been a long time, but he has been a head coach.
They just promote him.
I don't know.
Why don't they just promote him and do the right thing? So I'm just really shocked by this news at first, but then again, he's not like Al Davis because Al Davis he's opposite in that. But Jerry, again, being the dictator, being the all for the Cowboys, keeps holding them back. Now, you can blame the team for the performance, though, but obviously something had to be made. Some change had to be made head coaching wise, but maybe next year.
Sarge also, guys, says that every year Jerry Jones looks more and more like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, and his coaches are his precious, pretty much at this rate. I mean, am I the only one who was kind of surprised, like, how frail Jerry Jones is beginning to come with, like, every passing no Lombardi trophy in hand season, like, is beginning to eat more and more away at him? The toll of not getting to the Super Bowl or even winning it is really starting, I think, to probably hit harder, and harder. And Brandon, I don't care if this is not fair, but I've been sitting here thinking about this. The Dallas Cowboys and the LA Dodgers are two peas in a pod. They have very lofty expectations every year. World Series, Lombardi or bust, though.
Yep.
And it's simple, and I'll say it. The Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Dodgers are built for the regular season. They are not built for the long haul of an entire long, sustained 18-game NFL season plus the postseason. And the Dodgers are the same way. They have not been built, minus a one-off year 4 years ago for a sham of a MLB season. They are not built for a full 162-game season, and that they're both in the same boat. They have lofty expectations. Fan bases are annoying as hell and out of control. And every single year, though, the Cowboys and Dodgers find a new way every postseason to let their fan base down. You know, we can look back at the Dodgers' track record, for example, from that World Series run in 20 through now. Lost to Atlanta in 21 and lost to two inferior division rivals in San Diego and Arizona, one of them being a sweep nonetheless this past season. And then Dallas goes out there and loses to the number 7 seed, the last team to get into the postseason party. And then they don't just lose, Brandon. They get curb stomped at home, where I think they won 16, 17 straight games up until that point in time.
Yeah,
they're not built for the postseason. I think we all can agree with that. But Brandon, does this move in a way? I mean, what does it tell you in regards to what the Cowboys are going to do by, again, retaining Mike McCarthy for that last year of his contract?
Well, the thing is I think a lot of it also has to do with a certain 4-letter network keep bringing those guys up every year, making them their favorite to win their championship. And, a lot of fans, feel that way. And, all their experts have us winning. We're going to win this year. And when it doesn't, then they come up with some excuse, and I think I saw somebody put a little joking message on there that they wanted to sue because the Packers paid the refs or something.
No,
I don't know. I just, Dallas, Jerry Jones, he's kind of reminding me or starting to remind me of the LA Raiders coach owner back in the day.
Al Davis.
Al Davis, yeah, where he was loyal to his coaches because he got the people that would not say no to him. And I think that's where the fallout was with him and Jerry Jones was Jerry Jones wanted to do his, or Jimmy Johnson wanted to do his thing, and Jones did not want him to. But I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I mean, Chris, I know you're a big Cowboy fan, and hopefully something happens. And I mean, maybe Jones is missing out on two great coaches that are opening right now, because who knows what next year is going to bring. I mean, unless he's hoping that Dion jumps ship, if it opens up. But
that'd be something.
I think Dallas should have won after one of the two big coaches this year. That's just me, though. And maybe they need to hire.
I had a feeling
Well, and the thing is
Go
maybe
ahead.
they need Chris to be their GM or the money guy, because he would have, cut DiNucci a while ago, and then saved some money that way, as we all know from a previous show. So,
yeah, again, folks, though,
Thank
top
you.
story of the day, though, for Sports Minute once more, Mike McCarthy retained as the Dallas Cowboys head coach, announced earlier on Wednesday afternoon. With that, guys, over to Major League Baseball. We're roughly about, I'd say, a few weeks away from spring training getting underway in both Florida and in Arizona. But, James, I'll go to you. Baseball free agency continues to stall. It's been a very, James, other than the Dodgers, a very anticlimactic winter in regards to no real big moves. Yeah, the Padres dealt Juan Soto to the Yankees, with Trent Grisham for the Hall of Pitchers and Kyle Higashioka. Ohtani to the Dodgers, Glasnow to the Dodgers, Teoscar Hernandez to the Dodgers. Yamamoto, Jung-Hoo Lee going to the Giants. The two Asian pitchers from Japan and Korea who the Padres signed. But again, though, James, this is probably, man, in my soon-to-be 30 years living on this planet, this has to be the most anticlimactic baseball offseason I've ever experienced in my entire baseball-loving life, where we're so used to something happening. James, I agree about falling asleep at the wheel, because that is literally how this baseball offseason has been feeling. So, James, what do you believe, or what reasons do you believe is the reason for the very anticlimactic offseason minus the LA Dodgers?
I was thinking about this the other day while in LA. You know how the Dodgers have their own, cable network and all that?
Mm-hmm.
I could think of teams that have, the Bally Sports network, and how that...
Which I'll talk about more on Friday on Press Row.
Yeah, how that's kind of affecting the Angels in a way, where don't know if they'll have a season on Bally Sports, so they have to find another 80 million somewhere else somehow. So I think that's probably holding some teams back who are in those contracts. And also ones that are getting out of Bally's, if they are, or Bally, they're maybe going to try to find local deals or streaming deals. So I think that has something to do with it. And then I went back to 2018. Remember, that was the off season that turned into the spring training time when Machado and Harper both signed.
Yes.
Or was it? Yeah, it wasn't 19, I think, but
19, because I think
it was
18 is
supposed to be
when
18.
Hosmer signed in 18, I believe, in San Diego.
Right. But we thought maybe in December of 18, those two big guys would get signed, and then everybody else would, by the time spring training came, but it never happened. Until March of that year, I want to say. Probably almost halfway through spring training, I want to say those two were signed. So, also thing I looked up as well. This was actually the off season in 2018. It could go back again to salary structure, and then shifting away from big deals from aging players. That might be a big thing. Like JD Martinez, he's probably trying to get whatever he can. Being an old designated hitter, he's going to try to say, hey, I hit this many home runs. Everybody hits home runs. You have to pay me this much. So I think certain teams are kind of shying away from that, and then waiting until spring training to sign players. I think that's what's going on. And also a salary bubble that eventually will burst, but I think it's going to be I really want to, because you mentioned what, like almost a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting. So I would guess maybe a week before that happens, maybe we'll see some movement, or maybe next week. Who knows? But um, I know the big names are gone, the international names are gone, all to the wrong places, really. But it's really confusing, and maybe it's owners being smarter with their money. And remember, we did this whole CBA dance a couple of years ago, or was it last year? I can't remember. Oh no,
2022.
2 years ago. And it feels like when that's up in 2026, we're going to go through it all over again because of this non-signing of free agents by the owners. I think they're being smarter with their money, not knowing what the future is going to bring.
So, Brandon, I think, though, James brings up a great talking point, which, again, will be on Press Row Friday in the afternoon, in regards to the news of Wednesday that the court, I believe, adjourned today, and that Amazon will, in fact, be pumping money into the Bally Sports RSNs to keep them afloat via Prime Video, though I do not know if that will, or how much it'll affect the Padres, who are no longer a part of the portfolio because of them losing their deal back in May. But certainly, Brandon, I think James is right, though, that teams like the Twins, like the Angels, like the defending champion Rangers are kind of in a way handcuffed right now because of the Bally ongoing fiasco, and that they're kind of in a way handcuffed because you don't know where that revenue is coming from. I think I read a report too that Blake Snell wanted like a 9-year, $255 million contract because he's a Scott Boras agent, which in a way was like, holy cow. Like, I know you just want a Cy Young, buddy, but in the market that we're in right now, that's not going to be a thing whatsoever anytime soon. So, Brandon, James, though, great point, though, when he says teams may be handcuffed by the Bally and the television issues. But, Brandon, what do you believe is the main reason why this has been a very lackluster baseball offseason? Again, minus the LA Dodgers.
Well, I really think it just comes down to, I think James kind of hit it with the Bally deal and stuff with that, but I also think he kind of hit it out with the owners are kind of getting smarter. I think just they see the Ohtani deal, they see other deals, and they're just like, God, I really think they're just waiting for the players to come to them now and say, hey, let's talk a deal. Let's, couple years, maybe start signing them for less. Because the closer we get, I mean, it is in the team's best interest to sign these players. I mean, I'm looking at it now. Bellinger's not signed. Snell's not signed. Chapman's not signed. Jordan Montgomery's not signed. Yeah, Hader's not signed. I'm just looking at some of the top free agents here that are still out there. But
Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah, Jordan Montgomery, JD Martinez. Kershaw is still out there. So I think a lot of teams are just kind of weighing out options, like James said with Bally. But I think too that they're also kind of scrap and be like, I think a lot of teams got scared with the Ohtani deal. I think they just are not willing to pay that much. And of course the players want to get paid that much, but I just think I really think the owners kind of finally got smart and said, hey, we can't be shelling out this money, especially now that it's deferred everything except for $2 million a year, I think.
$2 million a year. Yeah.
So I hope the owners finally saw the light and kind of get smarter. I mean, yeah, it's weird not waking up and saying, oh, this person does sign, this person signed, oh, this person was talking with this team. It has been kind of a quiet off season for baseball, outside of the big Ohtani deal and some of the other, ones that signed. But yeah, I'm chalking it up to owners. I think finally got scared and got smart at the same time.
So, Chris, we have two, I think, very key points hit here already in this segment. We've had James bring up the Bally Sports issues again. You are affected by this right now with what may or may not happen with the Rangers on Valley Sports Southwest. Again, the Padres and D-backs were the first two victims of losing the Valley deal in May and in July. Again, I don't think that the Padres and D-backs, from what I've been gathering, will not be part of this new deal with them in Amazon. So there's been a lot of speculation about what might happen with the Padres here locally in the San Diego County television market. I've been hearing Channel 4 again, or even Fox 5, KUSI maybe. But plenty of things, though, that we'll talk more about on Friday. But again, Chris, we've had television revenue, and now we've had owners not wanting to make the same mistakes, though, of like long-term contracts for big-time money. And also our good man Tim Hendricks over in Italy even writes that the Brewers are also affected, too, on Valley Sports Wisconsin as well at this rate. So, Chris, what do you believe is the main culprit why this baseball offseason outside the Dodgers has been very, very, very slow and anticlimactic?
I think basically probably evaluating their talent, see what they got, see if they need to add more pieces, maybe let go some more pieces before just spring training, and just kind of seeing how everything's going to unfold at the spring training and see where to go from there.
I definitely agree, though, with James and Brandon in regards to, at least locally here in San Diego, the TV issue is a main big talking point. Because, again, I am not 100% sure that the Padres will be back on Valley Sports San Diego because they lost that deal in May, and they've been, put on MLB.TV, on cable, and via streaming platforms,
They
over the
said with
course of
that
last
deal,
season.
They said with that deal, if you had Bally's, you could still get it. Like you don't
So,
have
I
to
mean,
get the Amazon Prime.
yeah, and that's the thing, though, is more so, will the Diamondbacks and Padres be able to get back on the station is more of the talking point here in San Diego, is that you were already dropped like a sack of potatoes. Are you able to come back to the table and maybe try to renegotiate? And then also, I do agree, though, that maybe owners have gotten smarter about maybe how the Padres didn't make it work, though, with these long-term deals, and how the Dodgers, again, may not have it work out with Ohtani and Yamamoto about long-term investments. I don't know if that's really going to be, the thing. But again, very slow, anticlimactic right now baseball offseason. So we'll see what, in fact, does transpire. But again, we are getting kind of close here. Again, pitchers and catchers, at least with the Padres reporting on Super Bowl Sunday to Peoria, Arizona, with their first spring game literally 11 days later against the Dodgers. With that in mind, guys, we are through the NFL playoff, or the first round of the playoffs, wild card weekend, into the divisional round. Brandon, a lot of blowouts, not a lot of very, again, kind of in a way like anticlimactic wild card weekend, which again saw, Buffalo win after the game was postponed due to the weather. Again, the Cowboys laid the massive egg against the Packers. Houston going in and clobbering Cleveland. Tampa Bay taking down a very, very, in turmoil and in influx Eagles ball club. Brandon, give us your Cliff Notes recap of Wild Card Weekend, my friend. What you got?
I could tell you that I was shocked about the outcome of the Packer-Dallas game, especially the Bucs-Eagle game. I didn't think the Bucs were going to not give up more than 9 points or less than 9 points. I don't know. The Lions-Rams game was really good. I thought the Rams were going to the Lions were going to run away with that one. They started off, I think, 3 for 3 on their first 3 drives. So then it got kind of shoddy there after a while. Chiefs-Dolphins, I thought would be a little bit close, but I thought the Chiefs would hang on. I guess the biggest surprise blowout-wise, Texas-Browns. I didn't think the Texas would do that. I mean, we talked last year on how the Texans are rebuilding. They go out, make 2 huge moves in the draft, and if they're not the team of the year for any awards, I don't know what team would be. But let's see what week 2 brings. I mean, Bill Steelers, I kind of figured that was going to be, the kind of game it was because it got moved. Bills are at home. Pittsburgh had to travel and that stuff, and not to make any excuses, but this week, 4 good matchups, 4 good games. Again, I kind of be shocked if we see a couple blowouts, but you just never know. It'll be interesting to see how the Niners and Ravens do after pretty much 2 weeks off for some of their players. So I know that normally bites a few teams in the butt, but we'll see how it goes.
So James, again, man, I think Christy Wilson's right though. Really, like the only game that I really watched during the course of the weekend. That was after work on Sunday night, Rams and the Lions, and then Tampa Bay blowing the doors off of Philadelphia on Monday night, which is a real shock in my opinion too, about how a Eagles ball club who had a 10-1 start absolutely comes unglued at the very end of the season and just cannot put anything together. And then I think though as well the fact that they play Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown in a game for seeding when you're already in, like, kind of in a way, like, who really cares about seeding when you're, going into the postseason, and then you risk injury. And again, Jalen Hurts, the dislocated finger, AJ Brown, not in the game. James, your overall Cliff Notes recap, wild card weekend.
Man, it was mostly a snore fest. The first game on Saturday, Browns and Texans, you kind of figured, with the success that Flacco had against Houston, it wouldn't be like that again. Remember, in the regular season, I want to say it was week 15 or 16, C.J. Stroud did not play. He was out with the concussion injury. Mm-hmm. But Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper hooked up, I think, 3 times. Credit to Houston's defense and D'Amico Ryans, who might be coach of the year. They shut that down in the second half. Joe Flacco remembered who he was, and he threw those 2 picks. There was a pick 6 that really ended the game in the third quarter. So the Browns it was a great story for Cleveland this year with all the injuries and whatnot. And, having 4 or 5 different starting quarterbacks this year.
I think 4 of them.
It was amazing just to see him get to the playoffs. And then for Houston, it's just one of those stories that you love, to go literally worst to the playoffs, and then worst to first. They did win their division because of Jacksonville just falling off. But credit to Houston and C.J. Stroud being I think the youngest QB to ever win a playoff game. So I'm happy for D'Amico Ryans. I mean, Houston is back now after a few years of just horrible football and the whole Watson thing keeping fans away. That they're restored for sure. Saturday night you had that Peacock game, which seemed like it was a disaster because the Miami Dolphins were just banged up, especially defensively. I mean, they had 4 or 5 key guys out. It felt like all of them were out, other from Ramsey, and Wilkins was there, but that wasn't going to be enough to stop Patrick Mahomes. I know the numbers were pedestrian, but Pacheco got his, and then Rice, the rookie receiver, got his, definitely. Kelsey didn't do as much, but in that type of weather, you have the Dolphins coming in. They're not going to be the same, so that's why that game really, really flopped. Sunday came, and man, it was a shocker right away. What was it, 26-0 after Savage had that interception off of Dak Prescott
27
in that Cowboy game. I know there was a miss. Oh yeah, there was a missed extra point by Carlson. It was 27-0, and then
a mistake by
oh, that's right. Yeah, so we had some kick. That's the thing that might hurt some teams going forward. But it was just a shocker. We talked about Dallas, just not showing up. How CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott were bickering throughout the first half.
I don't know why. I still don't know why.
I was trying to read lips and all, but it's very tough, especially when they have grills, like CeeDee Lamb does. But it was like the worst time to have this, and no coaches stepped in, no other players stepped in to say what the hell's going on. Get focused on the damn game. It was horrible. But credit to the Packers just taking advantage. Aaron Jones running very well. That was awesome to see because he's had a banged up season. They didn't have AJ Dillon, their backup running back, but Jones had 3 touchdowns. Hargrove had some touchdowns from Jordan Love, who looked amazing. It was awesome to see. If you're a Packer fan, if you're a Cowboy fan, you're punching your TV that you got from Walmart. The Rams and Lions.
Questioning everything.
Yeah. No sharp objects. Crispy bacon. The Rams and Lions
over here.
was amazing in the first half. I mean, you had all the offense right there, hardly any defense by both, and then finally the defense showed up. I think both locker rooms got a good talking to, especially Dan Campbell's. The Lions, though, they had too much on the ground, and with Gibbs and Montgomery, it seemed like the Rams defenders, they just were not doing a good job of wrapping up. They were allowing big plays to happen. St. Brown had some good plays. But credit to the Rams, they weren't even supposed to be here. And to win 10 games, to go to the wild card game, for Stafford to look healthy again. And then for that type of situation for Stafford, not to go back to Detroit in a regular season game, but a playoff game, and then have the family there, to have the fans against you. That's a lot of pressure you don't need any more pressure. And he had that in the playoff game. That was amazing to see. And then credit to Detroit, man. The first win in 30 years for a postseason.
Since 91, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so 30 plus years. And now they get to host another playoff game next week against Tampa Bay. So mostly I'm really happy for Detroit and Houston, and more shocked at the Cowboys for not showing up.
All right, before I get to Chris, got to get some comments here. Christy Wilson first writes, fellas, it's simple. The Cowboys were screwed from the first snap of the game. We gave up big plays, and everything went down in an embarrassing way, like James alluded to, though, again, Lamb and Prescott bickering on the sidelines. We actually saw that, guys, with, I think, Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts were even doing that on Monday between Tampa and Philly, like everything just coming unglued at the worst possible time. Christy also says that the Buffalo-KC game should be good because that game is in Buffalo. For the first time, we'll see Pat Mahomes on the road in a playoff game. And furthermore, Christy Wilson says that C.J. Stroud is their pick for the offensive rookie of the year. Sarge also says, cannot wait for the KC Swifts versus the Bills. And also, Christy Wilson says the Dolphins could not handle the cold because, Sarge says, they're called frozen fish sticks. They never thawed out in time. But again, Chris, okay, we'll spare you about Dallas being what they are and were this postseason. But, Chris, your thoughts about the other games on Wild Card Weekend?
Yeah, I thought the Houston-Cleveland game was going to be a little more competitive, but I'm happy for Houston, and Cleveland should be happy, that they got into the playoffs after missing out a few years. Kansas City and Miami had a lot more players out with injuries than Kansas City. I think Miami should be back next year, depending on what moves they make. Dallas just seemed to play like they were in the cold weather, even though they're in an indoor stadium. Buffalo and Pittsburgh, I felt like Buffalo had better advantage in the cold than Pittsburgh. I mean, they both play in the cold weather, but Buffalo seemed to have a better advantage. I don't know if they practiced in it. And then I'm just happy Philadelphia lost. And then, not Travis, but the other Kelsey. He's going to retire.
Jason.
Yeah, he's retiring. So,
I mean, I'm not a big NFL or football fan, but I did watch the Tampa Bay game on Monday. I was working all weekend, Friday through Sunday, but I did get to sneak in a little bit of the Rams finish against Detroit, and feels so good for those Detroit fans who, again, have been suffering for, again, 30 plus years. You've been dealing with, 0-16 seasons, and, you finally turn a corner in a big way, though. So I feel great for Detroit. I feel really good, though, for Houston again. Worst the first season, but also Tampa Bay, though, kind of under the radar, 4 straight playoff appearances, winning this year's worst division of all time, or at least of the season this past year. I think that, like, every team below them was below 500 in a massive way, including Carolina, of course, who, yikes, they're in massive, massive disarray right now. But also, if anything, I feel great for Baker Mayfield. You know, a guy, number 1 pick in Cleveland, turned them around a bit in 2020. Didn't really pan out after 2020, went to the Rams for 5 games, comes into Tampa Bay on a 1-year, like, incentive-laden contract, basically, and puts them in the playoffs. And then they go out there and beat the snot out of the Eagles, who I know were in utter disarray, though, with, the 1-6 finish of the season, the injuries to Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. But still, though, there's quite a few very good feel-good stories out there, and we'll see how far those teams can go in the next round. With that, James, we'll start with you, man. Big trade in the NBA, the longtime Raptor Pascal Siakam to the Pacers for a couple of players and some draft picks. James, your reaction, what you got?
I heard this as a rumor, I think Tuesday night. I'm thinking, man, they better sign him to an extension, or an extension if he gets to Indiana. You don't give up 3 first picks, Bruce Brown, and another player, just for one player, or basically a rental, and that's what Pascal Siakam is. The NBA champion back in 2019. He's going to Indiana Pacer team that it feels like they still wouldn't have enough to beat Milwaukee or Boston or even Philadelphia. I mean, I'm waiting for Philadelphia to make a move. It seems like they have everybody in place. They just have to show up. That's the only thing about Philadelphia. But it makes Indiana, one of those top Eastern teams. They might be better now than Cleveland and New York, slightly. But we're all waiting. New York made that move getting another Raptor, OG Anunoby. They did give up something, RJ Barrett and quickly for him. But you could see this as the Raptors really looking good maybe in this deal, getting those 3 first-round picks, knowing that, they're breaking up everything here. It really is. When you think about it, last year they let Fred VanVleet go. In free agency, he went to Houston. Of course, Kawhi Leonard before that, after the championship, went to the Clippers. Valanciunas ended up, I think, now he's in New Orleans, doing well. I love him in New Orleans. This dude, he's playing at all-star pace. But you could just say, hey, this is Toronto just breaking up. And they're really starting over. They do have Scotty Barnes. But that's pretty much it. So these first-round picks hopefully help. But I'm worried that this might turn into the Rudy Gobert situation, where all those players that the Jazz got from Minnesota are gone. And eventually I think that's going to happen. But they got to hit on these 3 first-round picks if you're Toronto. And then, going to the in-season tournament championship definitely is not enough for Indiana. With Halliburton, Miles Turner, and now you bring in Siakam, you better make some noise. You better not get ousted in the first round. And then somehow you have to convince Siakam to stay maybe for less money than he would get elsewhere if you want him in Indiana. But this seems like a lot for a rental. That's what I thought when I heard this afternoon about this, or this morning when I heard this move. So, it's just Indiana going for it. And maybe it's still not enough. But Toronto, you could just tell. They're just trying to get whatever they can for who is valuable up there.
Big B, I think James is right, though, when it boils down to the fact that you get to the final, you either win or you lose. You know that eventually that the core of that team is going to get broken up, it seems like. I mean, I think we saw that with the Shaq and Kobe Lakers at like early 04, 05, 06 roughly. They brought in Peyton and Malone. to the star-laden ball club, and they did not win anything. I think they lost to Detroit, then I think they broke the core up, and then it was like Chris Mim and Smush Parker and Eddie George playing alongside Kobe Bryant like in 05, 06, 06, 07, roughly around the time Kobe should have won like 2 or 3 league MVPs. But I think that this is like the nature, though, of when you get to the final or when you are a team who has been a contender and usually in the mix like the Raptors were there. They had like their run here recently, and that they're still competitive, though. But again, you're going up against Milwaukee and Boston, who have been at the top, basically, of the Eastern Conference. I think that the Celtics have won their first 20 home games at TD Garden. Like, it has to be a new franchise record that they're 20-0 right now at home. So, Brandon, what do you make of the trade, though? And is it more along the lines, though, of like the last piece of that core that led this Toronto club to the title in 2019? Like, now that whole core is gone. Now the rebuild kind of begins here up in the Great White North in Toronto.
Yeah, once you get rid of that one final piece, it's all signs for a rebuild. It's tough. I mean, you kind of want to have your team there and, have some veteran leadership and some people that know how to win in playoffs. But when you start looking towards a rebuild and something's not happening, you got to dismantle. This was the last piece. So I know some other teams are, looking for pieces, and hopefully they can get over the hump like my Timberwolves here. Hopefully they make a couple good moves. But again, they don't have much assets to make any moves, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But, just hopefully that, Toronto can get back in there because, it's always good to have new faces, fresh faces in the playoffs and not the same old teams all the time. And, I know the big three doesn't work out like you said, Kellen, Shaq, Kobe, and then they brought in Malone and Peyton. That didn't work out, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So, I think teams just need to find a system that works for them and kind of stick with it.
Again, Chris, that trade again, Pascal Siakam, longtime Raptor. I think he's like longest tenured player in club history. Dealt today to the Pacers. Again, draft picks, young players in return, though. But again, like that last puzzle piece of that 2019 team that won the NBA title. Chris, any thoughts to pass along?
Yeah, I think, it's hard to keep everybody in one place, especially when it's a championship team. Now they're really in a rebuilding mode because you have that last piece to the last championship you had that could get you there. But I think he'll help out Indiana, Carlisle, if he's still there. Should probably help, and Indiana should be a tough team going forward, I think.
Our good man Tim Hendricks writes, when I heard about this trade, I was just a boy, and after I became a man. I think in regards to whatever it is. But again, folks, Pascal Siakam dealt from the Raptors today to the Indiana Pacers. Guys, before we get to our last topic here for college football, I believe J-Mac's behind the scenes, and he's asking, can anyone remember what happened 25 years ago in the NFL? I know on this date 30 years ago, James, you probably may or may not remember the big Northridge earthquake out here in Southern California that broke part of Angel Stadium with the scoreboard collapsing in the upper deck, and then the freeway interchanges here and all the damage done. But Brandon, do you want to take a stab at this question?
Yeah, I'm the one that posted it. Just wanted to know if you guys remembered. That was one missed field goal by Mr. Gary Anderson against the Atlanta Falcons. 2 minutes, 11 seconds left in the game. Vikings were up by 7, and he missed it wide left.
Was he perfect all year, Bigby?
Yes.
He was like Nate Kading. I think he was perfect all year. Then it boiled down to the missed field goal there.
He was, let me get the stat up here. I just had it. He was 122 straight field goals. I think his last missed was in 97 against the Broncos, I think it was. I'll find it. But yeah, I'm the one that posted that. See if you guys
And he misses at the Metrodome nonetheless, I believe, too.
Oh, it was against the Falcons.
It was against the Falcons, yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The Jerry Glanville led Falcons.
Dan Reeves.
Dan Reeves
Yeah,
led
Dan
Falcons.
Reeves. Dan Reeves with the Dirty Birds and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, he made 122
man.
consecutive kicks. Last missed 12-15 of 97 versus Denver Broncos.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Good
And
grief.
Dang.
yeah. And I think it was a makeable kick. I'm watching the video here. Let's see if they can
Plus,
show
it was
where
indoors too. Like you would have thought he
Yeah.
could have made it.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's no wind, there's no snow, there's no ice.
No
Like
one's
this isn't Blair
blocking it.
Walsh kicking at TCF
They
Bank
look
versus
like they're
versus
5,
the
10, 15,
Seahawks.
20,
41 yarder.
25. Yeah, what is it? 7 from the end zone. So it looks like they 5, 10, 15, 20. So they looked like they hiked it on the 20-yard line. So yeah, it was like a 39, 41 yarder. So
That's a shit. That would have been a chip shot for him.
yeah, it was. He barely missed it,
Except
but
come playoff time, apparently.
yeah, he swung it right down the middle, but slightly left.
And sadly, we remember Gary Anderson and Scott Norwood for missing field goals in the biggest moments in their club's history.
Yep.
To the point where Scott Norwood, I believe, got let go after the first 2 Super Bowls because they wanted to have a better kicker in case it boiled down to that again. And they brought Steve Christie in from Tampa Bay, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, then again, I had to sit through Nate Kading missing against the Jets in like 04 or 05, I think. And then not one, not 2, but 3 chip shots missed against the Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez led Jets at Qualcomm. Perfect all season like Gary Sanchez. Or Gary Anderson. He was like Gary Anderson 2.0.
Callan,
Yeah,
I want to get to the baseball one that you have though. So let's, I want to do the last baseball one.
So yeah, we got a good one here. This is a good one. We'll actually save that college story for Press Row's episode on Friday. With that, guys, the New York Mets. We know that they had a horrible season last year, highest payroll in baseball, 77 wins. However, we always, guys, I get excited around January, February, because usually that's when teams begin unveiling their promotional items, their giveaways, their theme nights. And also, teams usually will retire numbers of players after a long, sustained waiting period or whatever. So the Mets guys will be retiring the numbers of right-hander Dwight Gooden and infamous outfielder Darryl Strawberry to the Citi Field left field rafters, which got me thinking, who's the next player or players for your favorite team or teams that you would like to see their number up in the rafters? Could be baseball, could be basketball, could be any of your favorite teams out there. So, Brandon, I'll start with you on this one first.
Well, foremost, I'm shocked Dwight Gooden's number hasn't been retired. I can understand Stewart's or Strawberries, doing the outside activities, but good for them. Glad they got in there. I'm, 2 of my favorite non-Twins players growing up. One should have been a Twin after Puckett went down with the eye injury. Strawberry sitting right in the Twins' backyard in St. Paul. I don't know why we didn't sign him, but it is what it is. Basketball-wise, Garnett's has to go up sooner than later, hopefully next year when the new ownership fully takes over. Football-wise, I'm trying to think of who's out there. Nobody really stands out that's already not in there. I believe Matt Burke's number's retired. If not, that would be one that I would say. For the Twins ain't got nobody. Gardy might be the next number that goes up because he had some success with the team. Outside of that, if Buxton stays healthy and stays with the team, I could see his number going up there, but I don't see the Twins retiring anybody's numbers soon. Mauer's already up there, so his name, maybe Morneau's, but outside of that, probably Gardy's. And hockey-wise, I don't follow hockey that much, but I can see them putting I couldn't even tell you a player up there. But
I would hope that the
Garnett
Wild have.
in Minnesota will be up soon. What?
I would hope that the Wild have something for Bill Masterton, who was the only player I know of, at least, who was killed in the middle of a game when the North Stars first came into operation. I think Bill took a puck to the head or was hit into the boards, and I think he died a couple days later. There's actually a trophy named after him for the player who actually comes back from a huge injury or has a very good perseverance story. I don't know if that's tied with the Dallas organization now or how all that mumbo jumbo works with that sort of thing. Tim says that the Bucks cannot retire Ray Allen's number since Giannis is wearing Ray's number right now, and that his Penguins should retire Kevin, and the Penguins should retire Kevin Stevens' number as well. I don't know who else they could retire. I mean, it's Crosby eventually. I think Tim, you'd have to. I think, Tim, you'd have to retire Crosby, Gensel, and Letang all at the same time when those guys retire. With that, James, how about you? Who do you want to see the Angels and Raiders and Clippers retire into the Raptors at the Big 8 or at the Roomba or at Intuit Dome pretty soon?
Well, the Raiders don't retire numbers. So
that is true.
That's really unfortunate because they would run out of room on the Ring of Honor. I mean, there's just so many. It would rival the Cowboys one, the Steelers one. Oh no, the Steelers only retire like certain numbers.
Do they have to be Hall of Famers? Maybe.
No, because no, maybe so. Maybe they do what the Lakers do. But speaking of the Lakers, real quick, Michael Cooper, I think, is one of the finalists for the Hall of Fame, and they only put Hall of Famers up there. I think he's long overdue to get his number retired by the Lakers.
Good one.
For the Clippers,
Bill Walton.
No, they don't have any players that stood around too long, stayed around, and became pillars of a franchise. But it's just Ralph Lawler. At the new Intuit Dome, you just have to put a banner up there for him.
Like the Lakers did for Kern.
Yeah, I think you have to do that for Ralph, like you did for Chick. And then for the dumb, oh God, the idiot owner of the Angels. He's so behind on this. 15 for Tim Salmon for the Angels, 16 for Garrett Anderson, 17 for Darren Erstad, number 40 for Troy Percival, and then at least put like Vlad, a circle with Vlad on it at least for Vladimir Guerrero.
I mean, then again, Vlad is the only Angel player in the Hall of Fame with the Angels logo on his hat.
Only the Angels can only Artie Moreno can screw this up. So those would be mine. I think because of the way that he left the franchise, there's still bitterness.
That would be interesting. Like, I don't know, James, how you would feel, but I remember being at a Padre game when Darryl Kyle passed away and how that number's not been worn by an Astro or a Cardinal since his passing. And I felt a little uneasy when I saw, though I know that it was his number his whole time, but
Noah Syndergaard
being worn by Noah Syndergaard after the events of Nick Edenhart's passing. I don't know if they put 45 back in yet. I would hope that there'd be some sort of like in memoriam for the passing of Edenhart and Tyler Skaggs too.
Yeah, that's something the Angels really don't do.
I did it for Jimmy Reese when he passed away 30 years ago.
Yeah, because that was a coach. He was a baseball lifer, rooming with Babe Ruth. That's a great Mark Linkson
Mr.
story.
Autry has a number up in some capacity too.
Yeah. Shoot. Yeah, I think Syndergaard asked the family of Aiden Hart if he could have the number. That's the only reason why. 45 I think has to be put back. But there's all those other players who died while being an Angel. Lyman Bostock. Bostock, I think he was number 19, and there's been plenty of 19s
I think he wore
out
10
there.
when he played for the club in the 70s.
Yeah, you might be right on that. Well, yeah, Justin Upton was 10. Gio Urshela has been 10. So they just don't do a good job of remembering the players that they lost. And then they do have an Angels Hall of Fame, but you have to go behind the home plate
Yeah,
second
that is
level to
true.
find it. They should have that. Again, all those numbers that I mentioned in Vlad should be out there. Those numbers are getting kind of lonely out there. I think the last time they retired a number was probably Gene Autry's, the
It
26 in
had to be before he passed.
99,
Yeah.
98 or 99 when he did pass.
I think it was before he passed away that they did that. Yeah.
Before he did. And then before that, I think it was Nolan Ryan or Jimmy Reese or Carew. As you can tell, all those are, 20, 30 years. We need someone to remember the last 20 years. We need a reminder of when things were good. Because we're not, you'll have Trout eventually as a number retired, but that's it.
Yeah, I think, Chris, it's weird though that Team Hall of Fame is one thing, but like the retired numbers another thing. And I know that there's a boatload of teams down in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. So, Chris, I know that the Cowboys probably aren't big on numbers, but maybe give us your thoughts, like, Rangers, Mavericks, the Dallas Stars, maybe. Who do you think could be next in line for a retired number?
Danucci.
Tony Romo, right? Is he in the Ring of Honor?
Not yet, no.
Boom.
Let's see. Rangers, you go Seager or anybody from the World Series team.
Is Beltran put up there?
I think so, yeah.
Who is?
Beltran, yeah.
I think it happened, though, at the... Did it happen at the old ballpark? At the old ballpark, maybe, before they moved to Globe Life, the new Globe Life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dirt for the Mavericks.
He didn't get
Stars,
it?
I don't think so. Maybe he did. I can't remember. I know he's in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not sure else. I know Stars have Madonna.
Yeah, Stars have Madonna.
And then Cowboys, they retire numbers. Not too often, but I guess pretty often, so.
Guys, I don't think Steve Nash will get his number in Dallas.
He'll get it in Phoenix. He's already in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah, he's already there. But in Phoenix, in Dallas.
Not retired in Dallas.
Wow.
Wow.
Kobe's is. Is Kobe's retired league-wide?
Mm-hmm.
I think
no.
Not the Mavericks or some teams elected to do it in his honor, but it's not like Bill Russell's number now that's retired across the whole league.
But I think it's retired
in
like Orlando.
Bill Russell passing away last year, 2 years ago.
Isn't Shaq's number retired in Orlando now?
Or it will be.
It will.
Miami and LA is the other ones, and LSU.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a statue.
I think some teams, not the whole league, but I think some teams, like obviously other than the Lakers, I think the Mavericks were the only other team I can think of that elected not to let anyone wear 8 or 24 because of Kobe's passing. And I can also tell you, James, that no Angel has worn number 1 since Benji Molina retired either. They've not given out one since he retired back in 08 or 09 or 2010, whenever he retired.
That's probably an arty move.
But, the Padres, they retired, Tony Gwynn's been retired forever, Trevor Hoffman, Randy Jones, Dave Winfield. I, though, am making a very broad executive decision.
Uh-oh.
If I was in charge of Padre ownership, I'm tearing down that number 6 and putting up 17 instead. Though Steve Garvey hit the single greatest homer in club history 40 years ago in '84, that doesn't take away the fact he played his whole career for the Los Angeles Dodgers, your chief rival in Major League Baseball. So I'm tearing 6 down, and I'm putting 17 up for Nate Colbert, the first true superstar the Padres had here, who still has that 13 RBI doubleheader record for the Padres, and was the first big A-list name that we had here back in the 60s, early 70s. So I would go with Colbert over Garvey. But in regards, though, to down the line, this is going to be the 40th anniversary season since the Padres made their first ever playoff, World Series appearance in club history in the 84 campaign. And they already put Garvey and Tony Gwynn Sr. up there. And I can't think of anyone else who would be worthy of a number being retired. I know that they did put Gary Templeton into the Team Hall of Fame fairly recently. But honestly, I would go the route of Garvey comes off of the retired number list and 17 goes up for the Padres for Nate Colbert. Eventually, yeah, you'll put Tatis up there for number 23 when his time passes. Maybe Machado if they can get a World Series in about the next 11 years. 13 and 23 will be up there at one point in time. I also would like to see the Padres do something for Ted Leitner. Longtime broadcaster here in San Diego, the man who made me want to get into this industry when I was, a young kid at 4 or 5 years old back in the 98 season. They've already done stuff for Jerry Coleman. They named the whole press box after him. And then for the Anaheim Ducks, I'm going with 35 for John Sebastian Jaguar. I mean, that, J.S. Jaguar, 2003 Conn Smythe Trophy winner, took the team all the way to the Cup final that year, was on an absolute heater throughout the whole postseason. Again, they sweep Detroit. They knock out Dallas when they were the number 1 seed. I think he had 2 or 3 straight shutouts of Minnesota in the conference final. Yeah, they lost to the Devils in 7 games, though, and arguably one of the greatest Stanley Cup final series of all time. To go alongside Paul and Timu and Scott Niedermayer, and then Jaguar has to be up there eventually, and that's like the main 2 that I will go with. Other than that, does anyone here want to disagree that we'll see LeBron's number up in 3 different NBA venues for winning titles in Cleveland, LA, and Miami?
No, it will.
He'll be up there. He'll be the 3rd player in NBA history that there's his number retired. And honestly, it's one of those things where gotta respect the talent. The ego, he did what he did. He's got his rings. He'll get up there. I'm surprised. I was just looking at the Padres retired number. I'm surprised Greg Vaughn's number not retired.
That it was a one-off, sadly, in '98. He's like I said on Press Row for on one of my PR episodes, that '98 Padre team to me was along with when the Gulls won their Taylor Cups in the AA ranks of the West Coast Hockey League in the '90s and the early 2000s. Those 2 teams were living, breathing superheroes to me. And one of the reasons why I wore number 12 when I played sports when I was a kid was because of Steve Finley, who ended up winning a World Series with the D-backs in 2001. But I love Greg Vaughn, but I think it was a one-off, sadly, for that '98 campaign because he was the everyday left fielder. He wasn't platooning like he was in '96, '97 when he came here from Milwaukee, I want to say. But then he was on an absolute heater though when he hit those 50 homers. But again, I know Steve Garvey had the big homer 40 years ago, but again, 1 homer with the Padres doesn't cancel out a 10, 15, 20-year run with the rival LA Dodgers. I'd rather have Nate Colbert up there, who, again, 13 RBIs in 2 games. James, who do you have for us on your list?
Do you think, I know the Padres put Kim Caminetti in their Hall of Fame, but do you think he would ever be, his number would ever get retired?
Hell of a question. I think that the off-field steroid use might be a small hinder, though I think it was also a bit of a small hinder among the media corps here. Does a guy who did roids deserve to be in the Team Hall of Fame? Yeah, only MVP in club history in '96. The homers that he hit, it got them to the postseason, playing through the pain, though. But again, does the steroid usage kind of, in a way, stain that reputation? And I thought it was great, though, that the Team Hall of Fame this past season was John Moores, the owner who bought the club from the Warner Group, who helped build Petco, 3 division titles underneath the ownership umbrella in '98 and '05, '06, the '98 run to the World Series. And then obviously Jake Peavy, homegrown talent, Cy Young Award winner multiple times. When in the year before it was Uncle Teddy, and Larry Lucchino, who went in, who was also instrumental in building Petco Park, the 3 division titles and the World Series run. Though I would wonder though, like if they do a team Hall of Fame, who is left from the 84 club this year that could go in. I would really hope it'd be Alan Wiggins. I know that I'm very good friends with the Wiggins family, with his daughter Candace, who played professionally in the WNBA. She played here locally at Country Day. I've known her since I was very young. But again, though, does Alan Wiggins's HIV and AIDS and his drug paraphernalia problems from his days with the club kind of hindered that reputation? Again, yeah, he's, I think, still a single season stolen base leader at 70 in that 84 campaign. Greg Nettles, I think, is already in the team Hall of Fame, or should be in the team Hall of Fame. Kevin McReynolds, Goose Gossage. There's so many guys that I think could be on that, in the team Hall of Fame. And I think, though, team Hall of Fame is one thing as opposed to retired number, where I think, though, James, Caminetti, for me, is fine in the team Hall of Fame, because I think, though, you're honoring the player for how it was on the field. The number, the number, I think, if there would have been a ring maybe on a finger, maybe in 96 or 98, I would have said yes, though. But then again, you got the baggage, though, of the steroid usage and all that sort of stuff, though. But certainly, though, James, very, very, very valid point, though, because honestly, I feel like it would be either the whole 84 team goes into the team Hall of Fame, they choose to do it in 2024, or it's more individual players like a Terry Kennedy, for example, and Alan Wiggins maybe, or, stuff like that. And maybe, Brandon, I don't know if the Twins do a team Hall of Fame, but certainly, I kind of like the debate, though, of like, is the player more worthy of the team Hall of Fame, or is it more of the retired number? I would think it'd have to be like, in Joe Mauer's case, I think he got his number retired, I believe, and that Justin Morneau should be next in line for that.
Yeah.
And I think if it's like a player who still had a good career, though, but maybe is not worthy of a retired number, that becomes team Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I know a lot of teams do those Ring of Honors, so.
Tim does write in that the Raiders should retire Bo's number when they eventually do. James, could there be like a one-off concession made to Bo Jackson for the Raiders? Maybe. What do you think?
They already let players wear 34, and I can't ever remember them retiring just one number. So literally, there's a 75 out there, 81, a 12, a 3.
Raiders don't have no numbers.
They didn't. I don't think anyone has worn 63 cents, and that was Gene Upshaw, just because he was part of the players' union that fought for free agency and more players' rights. So I don't.
Davis hated his guts.
Yeah, but being a Raider, I think that helped, though.
Yeah, being a Raider was being a Raider.
I think that's the only one I haven't seen. As a Raider, being worn again, and just think of all the players that they had. 25 Blitnikoff, 21 Cliff Branch. Go ahead, baby.
So in June of 2019, the Raiders put out that they don't retire numbers because they believe the team always believed that not retiring a number always allows us to keep the memory of that former player fresher in our minds.
And just retire the number. That's so stupid.
That is front office logic for you, sadly. Am I right?
Yeah.
I mean, then again, like for me, it was weird seeing a guy for the Bears wearing number 9. Like, why is that number like not?
No,
I mean, I know it was a one-off. Like, I'm totally kidding. Like, even the Bears are the same way. Like, they only retire like
34, 51.
34,
No, there was a 51.
51. I think Bronco Nagurski's numbers retired for when he played with the Bears back in like the early days of the NFL.
40.
Like, it was a little weird though seeing a guy wearing number 9. Like, hey, that's the punky QB. You're not McMahon. Take that number off.
Yeah.
54, I think, was retired. I want to say.
I think the Bears have the most retired number.
I think they do too. It's either I would probably say them or maybe Green Bay.
6, 7,
4,
8,
12, 15,
11, 12.
87,
I'd
88.
probably say Chicago for sure. They've been around for so damn long.
Yeah, Bears have 14 numbers retired. They're by far. Oh, well, Giants.
16.
And I think the
Giants have
Spanos
11.
family. I think the Spanos family only has 14, 21,
19.
19. Yeah, 19, 55, and 85 are the only 5 retired by the Spanos family organization.
Well, 17 should be next, and 85.
Yeah, I would put
I'm
18
actually-
up there before 17. I'd put Charlie
Oh!
Joyner up there beforehand. Yeah, absolutely.
They can't put a number up there in that stadium. I forgot the Rams won't allow it.
Exactly.
Whoops.
They have them on like a little like James, how it's James, how it like crypto.com, if they have like the banners that cover up the wall that show like it's a Laker home game or a Clipper home game or a Kings home game. The Chargers have that for their Ring of Honor at SoFi. So all the numbers are only there. They're technically up, but they're only there when they play their home games.
Yeah, and it's only that ribbon board. It's not their full time.
And I'm actually kind of surprised Buffalo only has 1 number retired.
12?
Yep.
Jim Kelly.
I know they have names up there, but
everybody has the Ring of Honor.
Again, yeah, they all have the Ring of Honor. Like that's
OJ.
like I think where the distinction lies. Like, okay, who's worthy of the number being retired and who's more worthy of the Ring of Honor? Where again, I feel like though that Charlie Joyner's number needs to be up there, or should have been up there in San Diego, or in Inglewood or whatnot. I mean, Charlie Joyner. I mean, one of the best receivers of all time. I know about Fouts and Allworth, and obviously seeing LT play here, and and obviously Gates, and I hope he gets in first ballot and he shouts out San Diego like he did at his retirement thing at SoFi earlier this season. But certainly, hey, I love a topic like this where we can sit here and talk about what's worthy of a retired number, what's worthy of a Ring of Honor or a Team Hall of Fame induction. With that, we'll go around the horn here. Brandon, final thoughts for the night's program. What you got?
It's always good to chit-chat, talk sports. I love doing this. It kind of fulfills a bucket list of mine every time I get on these shows. But keep checking us out. We got a lot of things coming. Callan, you're doing great on some of these intros and stuff. Check out myself and Tim. Check out myself and Tim on C2C Rank 'em on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. I think this will be our last installment of Weird Laws in States.
Oh, boy.
I love those.
Oh, yeah.
Weird Laws, man. It's something to look forward to. I love it. I mean, it's great. James, down to you. Final thoughts for the night's program, and what do you got coming up on Friday for Entertainment Hour?
I don't know just yet, but Pete Rose for the National Baseball Hall of Fame. One day.
Make it happen.
He's in the C2C Hall of Fame. That's all that matters.
He's in our Hall of Fame, exactly. I don't know who else is in the Hall of Fame, but hey, Pete Rose is in our Hall of Fame for sure. But James, back over to you.
Morning tailgate probably on Saturday morning, I'm guessing. That should be fine. Let's see, what else? Yeah, just stay tuned, like Chris would say, and look out for the programming. Of course, press row on Friday, I think you mentioned, Callan?
Si, senor.
All right.
Yes, we will have plenty, folks, on Friday. We'll have hopefully more details of the Amazon deal with Bally Sports that broke earlier on Wednesday. It's been a slow week for me. Again, I got work on Thursday, and then that's literally it until next Tuesday. So it's been kind of a slow week, kind of boring week, honestly, if you ask me. Yeah, I won't be able to be on Kicking It, sadly, which kind of sucks. But hey, Presto is back, though, on Friday again. We'll hopefully have more of a bit of a grasp, I would say, on that whole deal between Bally Sports being rescued by Amazon Prime Video on Wednesday. We'll talk a bit more, too, about Florida State as well being sued by the ACC for a breach of contract and potentially more shuffling of realignment going on with what was going on with that aspect and other stories, though, from the sports media and sports business angle coming up Friday at around roughly 1:30 or 2:30 on Friday afternoon. With that in mind, though, folks, for that man, Big B, and for the other guy, James Gonzalez, and for our other guy as well, Crispy Bacon, Chris Mabry, Yours truly, Cal McClurg, pinch hitting for Adam Barber, wishing you and yours a pleasant rest of your evening. We'll see you back here again next Wednesday for our next live installment of Sports Minute back here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, folks. Till next time, good night.